Sharon. We have a Sharon back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just doing our very best of Marlon Brando, Stella thing, but Sharon!
Oh,
Yeah.
Sharon!
I was sat there watching my phone and I said, going back in. I thought, right, I'll go in. Stella! Yeah.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that is reveling in the third week of cinema, even though there is nothing to see. It's a really weird week. My name is Tosin. I'm your host, based up in Coventry in the Midlands, and joining me as always on the Isle of Wight are Sharon.
Hello.
And Shaun.
Hiya.
Yeah. Now, we are coming to you in the week in which the film world received some sad news. And that was with the sad news, I think, on Bank Holiday Monday. I think I was it the Tuesday that I woke up? No, it was on the weekend. It was on Saturday that I woke up and my I was actually woken up by my wife and she was like, Tosin, Chadwick Boseman's dead. And I was like, what? And it was like, when you wake up and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And it's like Chadwick Boseman's dead, and those words didn't really sort of link together. And then she said he died from, first of all, with everything that's been going on in the world, my thoughts immediately went to, oh my God, please don't tell me that a policeman shot him. That was the first thing my mind went to.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, and then she was like, no, colon cancer. And I was like, oh.
I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible because he had it during the filming of Black Panther, apparently, didn't he? And there's no way you would have known. No way.
Well, I think he got diagnosed because they said that he got diagnosed 4 years ago, and I've been doing some count back, and I figured that must have been during the filming of Black Panther, because Black Panther was released in. Let's see. Let's do a count back. Black Panther was released in the same year as Infinity War, which was 2018. So I think it was it would have been early on in the filming of Black Panther that he was diagnosed. And then he went through it, did in like Infinity War, Endgame, and everybody's talking about the fact that he filmed 4 films while this was going on. And so he did 21 Bridges, he did The Five Bloods, and apparently still has one final film that's yet to come out that he did. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, but the thing is, I remember, so Shaun, I know you and I saw 21 Bridges. And I remember watching 21 Bridges and thinking, oh my God, he's lost weight. And I remember watching there's a scene right at the end of 21 Bridges. I mean, it's not much of a spoiler because it's a typical sort of like policeman thriller, like good cop against the world, where there's the final face-off between him and what's his name? J.K. No, not J.K. Rowling. J.K. Simmons.
Yes, J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, between him and J.K. Simmons in the house. And there's a bit where his clothes actually look baggy on him. And I remember looking at that and thinking he actually looked skinny. Not like muscular skinny, but he looked skinny. And I remember thinking, I was like, well, I hope that's intentional. I hope maybe it's for a role or something. Because each time I saw him, he'd seemed to be losing weight. And then when my wife woke me up and said he died from colon cancer, I was like, oh, okay, and now that makes sense. That the films he made, he seemed to be getting progressively thinner. And it's one of these pieces of news that I know a lot of people, because of his role as Black Panther, he meant a lot to a lot of people. And I was never somebody who, let me put it this way, I was never somebody who said, Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa, my king. I was never somebody who said that.
No.
Wakanda forever.
Yeah, exactly. I was never somebody that you would see walking around doing a Wakanda forever salute. Even though after that film came out, I did have black people who would come up to me and do the Wakanda forever salute, and I'll be like, we actually have actual African salutes from actual African countries. Because I've said it before, I know that I think Black Panther speaks a lot more to the Black American experience than it does to an African experience. So it was a film that was made a lot more for that. And so with that, it wasn't like, oh my God, the world has fallen down when I heard that. But as time has gone on from hearing the news, each time I think about it, it just gets sadder and sadder in my mind that he's gone. And it's just really, really sad that, I mean, sure enough, we've lost a lot of people in the last couple of months, and it's not as if it's worth more than any, but this is somebody who, I knew, had some sort of connection with, or knew of rather, and it's just kind of like sadder and sadder the more you think about it that he's gone. But anyway,
it's a real shame. A real shame.
43, someone's got a lot more to offer, haven't they? It's sort of no way. We don't think of that as being middle-aged. I mean, because I think we're all in that bracket. We go, we're not middle-aged. We probably are. But it just doesn't feel like it feels like he had a lot more to give. It's all the same, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's what it hits me is when I think about the fact I'm like, oh, wow, that means I'm not going to get to see him in any other films. I'm not going to get to see any more of his work. And that, for some reason, is just making sense, especially if he's only 3 years older than I am, or when he died. And it's just kind of like oh, wow. So, oh, wow. Oh, okay. Wow, that is a bit weird. It's a bit weird to. So, Chadwick Boseman, you will be missed, and to be honest with you, I'm just really glad that he got to get known by a lot of people for his work before it happened.
I think so.
Yeah, because I originally saw him on an episode of Fringe, the TV show Fringe, and he played person with weird powers of the week, and that was the first time I saw him. And then I know he did the Jackie Robertson thing in 42. He played James Brown in Get On Up, which is probably the role that I would be like, this guy's good, as when he played James Brown before he landed Black Panther. I'm just happy that people got to see him on a wider scale before he died.
There's actually a very good little tiny little film that they did for all the nominees the year that he did James Brown. And they were called Six Kisses, and they had the male lead, the male actor, who and all the nominated characters do these small little films. And he did one with Kristen Stewart that was excellent. Now, all of those 6 films were really perfectly constructed, tiny little films in about 5 minutes. And he's in one with Kristen Stewart, and that's the first time I'd actually noticed him. I thought, I don't know who Chadwick Boseman is, but he caught my attention in that short, that 5 minutes. He was attention grabbing. But I would say, check those out on YouTube. They always were available on YouTube, but they're called Six Kisses, and they're just these perfect little vignettes. And he's in one of the better ones.
Pen, 6 Kisses. Yay! That's what I'm going to do in my chill out time this evening. Find some more Chadwick Boseman stuff that I haven't seen yet. So now, and having started on that downer, now let's go on to talking about some films, shall we? Let's go to talking about some films. Now, we were talking about cinema. We were talking about cinema just before Shaun and I just before we started. We pressed record on this, and we're talking about the fact that there doesn't seem to be much out in cinema. After cinema came back with a bang and had all these different things in there, and Lord of the Rings marathons and all that. It seems that we are back to some sort of normal service where that would happen whenever a big film was released. Like whenever Marvel released a movie, the week after that, you would find that there was nothing in the cinemas, just because people would be like, "Oh my God, Marvel! Yeah. Let's just stay away for a minute. Let's just give them space, give them the space to dominate, and we'll come back. We'll come back after they've finished sort of stomping all over the town like Godzilla in Tokyo."
Yeah.
And it seems that something similar is happening because TENET was released last week, and this week it's like a wilderness in the cinema. There's only one thing that has popped its head up to actually to get into the cinemas, and that is the New Mutants. But the New Mutants, I mean, we might as well do this because this is a film that was originally made. I think it was originally filmed in 2017, was supposed to be released in 2018, and has just been delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. Now, Shaun and I have seen this film. Bearing in mind that this is a film that is kind of linked to the X-Men universe, and the last entry into the X-Men universe was, and let's see, the last entry into the X-Men universe was X-Men Dark Phoenix, which Shaun and I loved. So we absolutely loved that film.
Yeah. We did.
Yeah. Oh, it couldn't have been better. It does not bode well for the New Mutants. So, Shaun, if you're okay with it, I'll just take the lead on this and explain a little bit more about what the.
For sure. Yeah. You go ahead. You explain stuff, and then I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, I like that. That's how I like it.
Shaun is like, everybody else you do the exposition. I'll just come in with the sledgehammer. That's the Shaun method. That's the Shaun Harris method. So the New Mutants. This is a film that kicks off on a Native American reservation. There's a girl in bed who gets woken up by her dad and says, "Come on, we gotta go. And there's some sort of what's the word? Sort of commotion going on outside. It looks like there's a blizzard or something else going on like that. And then running away, she gets knocked out. She wakes up in some sort of hospital, and she's told that everybody on the reservation is dead. Something killed them all, but you're the only one who survived. Why do you think you survived? That she doesn't know. As it transpires, it turns out that this hospital is it's a place where mutants are kept. So in this hospital, there's only 5 teenage mutants, and each one of them is there because they've had some power, and when the power manifested, people died. And so they come to this place, and the whole idea is that they are looked after a doctor played by Alice Braga, who says, "We're going to look after you, we're going to try and help you, and when you can control it, you are allowed to go back into the main world. There's a force field around the whole place, it means they can't go anywhere." And you start finding out from these different people, it's essentially kind of like the Breakfast Club. You know how you have the Breakfast Club, and you have the Breakfast Club locked up in a place, and then they get to find out about each other and know about each other and get to respect the struggles that each one of them have been through. That's one vein that goes through this film. Now, this film, as I said, has been delayed for absolute ages because it was at Fox. Then they wanted to do some reshoots to sort of fix some stuff to it. And then Fox got taken over by Disney. And then they delayed it because of the reshoots. Then when Disney took over, they didn't know what they were going to do with it. And then Disney said, "No, we're going to definitely release it." Then COVID happened. So it got delayed again. So essentially, by the time this film was going to be released, the director said, "We can't actually do any reshoots because all the cast looks significantly older than they were when they filmed it because it's been delayed so long." But they eventually decided, we're going to release the film originally as it was done. And with all that tinkering that has been done to the film, I'm surprised that you actually have a coherent film that came out of the end of it because of all the industry messing around that come up with the film. So I'm going to say that's it. That's the basic thing about it. You have mutants, they're in a hospital. They find out about each other. It's all Breakfast Clubby with a little bit of a tinge of horror thrown in. Shaun, what did you think?
Okay. What did I think? Well, it's like me. I must be a creature of habit because I thought it was a film of two halves.
Uh-huh.
I was quite intrigued, and I thought, I wonder where this is going. This looks quite interesting. And then I don't know. It just got a little bit too. I mean, why wouldn't they do something earlier than what they did? You know what I mean? There's obviously something that's not quite right. But I think this is a film that is definitely targeted at young adults, isn't it? Definitely targeted at young adults, 100%. I mean, you can tell the audience this is going for. It's going for the, I would say the Twilight audience sort of thing, isn't it?
Yep. I would agree with that.
Some of the romances and some of the, suggested things that might go on and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, definitely for young adults. It had moments. I wouldn't say I disliked it, but then again, I wouldn't say it was great. I did like some elements of it. I wish they'd have. I don't know. It just, as I say, it started off really good, and then when all those. Well.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
You know the bits I mean. It's like
I know you're talking about. Yeah.
Why did they suddenly? All of those things. Why did that happen? And it's just like, I started to sort of think, I don't know about this too much now. But yeah, I mean, I started off thinking, okay, and then about halfway through, I started to become a little bit skeptical, if you will.
Well, I totally understand what you're talking about, because I think at this film they try to do something a bit different from what you usually see in your superhero movie. So with it being aimed a bit more at the sort of Twilight audience, it means that they took the chance to be a little bit edgier, to be a little bit like there's things that in this film that you wouldn't necessarily see in an X-Men movie. And there's this whole idea of you had these 4 mutants who were in the hospital, and then when they bring another one in, weird stuff starts to happen. Like people's worst fears seem to start coming to life, and then that's when it becomes a little bit horror-ish. And like you see, like, you know, the things that they're the most scared of, the things that they're most ashamed of start coming up. And you can see that there's an attempt to put some subtext in there, and it could actually do some sort of psychological horror, which, and I agree with you at the beginning, is quite effective. I mean, I think the first and foremost, if you're talking about bad films in the X-Men universe, this is no way the worst film in the X-Men universe. That film is X-Men Apocalypse, which is a piece of absolute
yeah. We don't talk about that.
That film is, I can't believe how bad that film is. I mean, X-Men, I would say this is even better than X-Men Dark Phoenix, because X-Men Dark Phoenix was just a bit meh.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, this, at least, I agree at the beginning, it intrigues you. It's like, where are they going with this? What are they going to do with this? This is building up quite nicely. They give you like a backstory to all the different characters. The performances are good. You believe them. They're not just kind of, because sometimes when you do a tween movie, you can have some really, really annoying tween performances or really, really annoying characters. But I think these all felt like especially the character played by Charlie Heaton, the guy who sounds like he's from Kentucky or something. And like you actually really feel his pain. You feel like this pain and his shame of what meant that he ended up in this hospital and what his powers mean. You really, really did feel that. The Brazilian guy, not so much. I think Maisie Williams is the best I've seen Maisie Williams been. I mean,
she's a good actress. I've seen her in a few.
I've
seen her in a few things. She's quite good. You know, she's an actress.
Yeah, once you see her outside of Game of Thrones, and you actually realize, oh my god, she actually has something about her. She's actually quite good in it. But I feel like the film has interesting things at the beginning, which is what I think the director was really, really into. And you can almost see the bit where the studio started meddling, because towards the end, it kind of goes generic action superhero movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, and even though it's quite cool, because I quite like what ends up being the bad guy of the film, I quite like the idea of it, but the way in which it's done, and it just goes into a bit where it's like, oh, and here is the CGI, like there's attempts to link this to the wider X-Men movies, that there's a bit where they have a scene from Logan, like they have a scene from Logan shoved in there. And I think if this one was released originally when it was supposed to be released, it would have linked better with the other X-Men movies. But I'm not sure whether you ever saw the original screenplay for Logan, because the director James Mangold, who also wrote it, he released the first page of the screenplay while he was filming Logan. And then it said, this is not going to be your average Hollywood superhero movie. This is not going to end in some giant CGI block-destroying effathon. and that was part of his thing, was like, we're not going to have like CGI at the end and everybody jumping out and just blowing things up. And this film kind of ends up doing a little bit of that at the end. And it's kind of like, okay, we've seen it before. It's refreshing that it's not about the end of the world, but it's about these characters. Like, as I said, that sort of Breakfast Club thing where the entire world is in this hospital, and that's all you're looking at.
In this hospital.
And all you're looking at is this world, and it's just about them trying to survive. I think carry on.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think it was that, to me, if they were going to do things, they would have done them, they were a bit too, I don't know, sedate, should we say, to start with, a bit too, okay, bit accepting, whereas, and then they, I agree. It's kind of like, I understand with you, it's like where the film ends up going, it felt like that's always where it was going to end up. Why did it have to take this thing to make that happen? So all in all, I agree with you. I quite enjoyed the first half. I thought the second half kind of like it went down a bit. I'm so glad it doesn't try and do any sequel baiting. Like they don't try and go, guess what's going to happen in the next one. And I quite like the way it ends. And I know some people have been absolutely lambasting this film. I don't think it's as bad as people have been yelling about. I think I would give it a 3 out of 5. And I have to totally agree with you, Tosin. I will give this a 3 out of 5. As I say, I like some elements, and yeah, I liked the ending. I thought that was, it was quite an interesting, the sort of parting shots. But yeah, so I'm going to agree with you. We agree, man.
We agree. Yes,
we agree.
We should have a fanfare. We have agreement.
Yes.
All right, cool. And now we are going to go. So, for anybody who's listening to this and wondering what on earth these guys just started prattling about film, what usually happens on Netflix or cinema? I probably should have done this at the beginning. We will watch a couple of things in cinema, watch a couple of things at home on Netflix and other streaming platforms, rate them all out of 5, get an average, and say who has won this week, where has the money been better spent, Netflix or cinema. So, that is a 3 for the New Mutants. First up with cinema, firing off its first salvo. And now we are going to go to Netflix and Friends, and this is something that Sharon saw called Only.
Yes, it's called Only. It's a 2000. Let me just get the date right, because it's a new release on Netflix, but I believe it was a 2019 film. Yes, 2019 film. So it's a new release on Netflix. And basically, I didn't really know what it was about until I just clicked on the icon, because we in Netflix versus Cinema Land get that growing sense of panic by sort of Wednesday afternoon if we haven't seen anything. So this was
what are you talking about?
I've got to Wednesday afternoon, I've got to watch something film. But actually, I was pleasantly surprised that it was actually did hold my attention. But the basic premise is set contemporarily. There's a comet passes over the world.
Yep.
And it releases some sort of, it looks like a weird sort of grey snow starts falling in different parts of the world.
Yep.
And they notice that pretty soon on, women start getting sick. And it's a virus that makes men ill and they become carriers, but it makes women sick, and because of the chromosomes, and the women are beginning to die off. And then with the story is focusing on one couple who basically, the film starts, you see them at day 400, and they're in this sterile apartment where there's cellophane and plastic everywhere. They've got like a decompression area where to shelter them from the outside world, where they're trying to basically protect themselves from this virus that has gone mad in the world. And so it starts in reverse order. So you see it on day 400. And then as the film progresses, it works back in the timeline. So you see how they got to where they are now, where it all started, and what the decisions they've made. And they make a choice. On day 400, they make a decision about what they're going to do next. And I don't want to give you any more information, because that's what the whole film revolves around.
Yeah.
But it's quite timely, and in the fact that there's this virus that has a potentially devastating impact on the world's population. And the virus in the film, it's devastating because it basically wipes out nearly all the women on the planet.
Oh. And
occasionally you get like news flashes where it says, there's a reward for any live women that are found, so that they can go into the brood. They talk about not a breeding program, but they talk about harvesting eggs and things, because they're saying, that if we want the world to survive, we then need to start looking at repopulation.
Yeah.
And at the moment, there are no girls left in the world. And what women they've got, there's a few there, and so there's rewards for the identification and not the detainment. They're saying they sort of take them into they protect them from the world.
Okay.
But it sort of has this slightly creepy edge. So basically, any woman out there has got potentially a price on her head, because she's valuable more than just her own. She couldn't have 1 million children, but they could harvest her fertility.
So thematic elements and similar with The Handmaid's Tale and stuff like that.
Yes, because that is a world that The Handmaid's Tale grew out of a world where fertility has been declining steadily, and this is their way of solving that problem. Whereas in this world, the it's becoming desperate. That if the human race is survived, then they have to find a way of perpetuating the human race, and the women are diminishing at a rapid rate.
Okay, so what
so
did you
it's
think?
basically yes, I thought it was remarkably well done. It's very low key. It's not nothing flashy about it. It's all the colouring is sort of muted. The themes are quite muted. It's like a winter when you do get glimpses out of the outside world, and it's like forever autumn, which is obviously symbolic of the state of the world itself. It's in the autumn of its existence. If there's no women, then the world will enter into a winter of nothing growing. So it sort of has an autumnal feel about it. But it's mainly the two main actors in it who basically carry the whole film. Frieda Pinto stars as the woman. Her name is Ava.
Yep.
A little nod to being like the first woman, and possibly is she the last woman?
Yeah.
And her partner, who tries to keep her safe, is played by Leslie Odom Jr., who
also known as Burr from Hamilton.
Oh, is he? Right.
Yeah, he's the guy who originated the role of Aaron Burr in Hamilton on stage. That's what he's famous for.
Okay, so that's why he's made a crossover into cinema then in different ways. He plays Will. So the majority of the film, it is just the two of them, and you go on this sort of journey, through the film with them. I thought it was well done. It's not flashy by any means. It's sort of like a slow burn. So I think you need to give it sort of a bit of attention if you want to, get all the nuances. And every now and then it flashes up the day. So you have to be quick to see what day it is. So you know that this is in the future or is in the past, or what stage this pandemic is going on. So you need to keep your wits about you when you're watching it. But I thought it was good. So it was worth a Wednesday afternoon of my time. So I would give that a 3-star.
Ooh, 3 star.
It's a solid film. Nothing flashy, but it was solid. So I'd give it a 3.
So far, we're having a perfectly acceptable week. So, I'll tell you. Okay, based on the storyline you said about the film, or the plot of the film, it sounds like it's a little bit like Why. There's a graphic novel I love called Why the Last Man, but it sounds like it's in reverse, where on a certain day at a certain time, for some reason, nobody knows why, all the men drop dead in the world. Apart from so it's not even all the men, it's all the creatures in the world with a Y chromosome drop dead. And so all the male humans, all the male animals, they all drop dead. And the only 2 left alive are a man called Yorick and his pet monkey, Ampersand. And it's all about what does that do to the world and all that kind of stuff. If you guys can find it to read, I know they're making it into a TV series now, but if you can find the original graphic novel, go find it. And talking about things, I think, Sharon, you just said something about things that, like, wait, you're trying to figure out exactly where you are. You have to keep your wits about you to figure out where you are in the story. We go on to Tenet, the film, the film that I have spent a week running through my head. People keep asking me, so what was it like? And I keep trying to come up with different ways of describing this film. I keep trying to come up with different. And Shaun, I piqued your interest enough for you to actually go into a cinema, sit down, and watch Tenet. So we spoke a little bit about what plot there is of Tenet. What did you think?
Okay, well, I agreed from you from your review last week. It certainly needs another look, doesn't it? It certainly needs a love. I mean,
it needs multiple viewings.
It needs, and definitely needs more viewings. I mean, it's quite intriguing, but there's so much going on all the time, and I think that as you get towards the client with all the lines of people, all the lines, and you think, oh, wow, which one's that? Which one's that? Oh my goodness me, what's that going? Where's that going? Oh, what's that over there? Oh, that. Oh, and then so it's all very much. Right, let's see. So there's that one going that timeline or that timeline, or over here or over here. Which way? What they're doing? Yeah, it was a very, very. I mean, I don't know. It's a difficult thing to say, isn't it, Toes? I mean, It
is. It really, really is.
It really is difficult to review because, I mean, it was certainly watchable, and but it was just there was so much going on. so much going on. It'd just be great to watch it a couple of times and think, okay, I'm going to concentrate on that bit, because it was, wasn't it? It was mayhem. It was like, whoa,
it was,
that final bit, backwards, forwards. Which one's doing? So it's all over the shop.
It is. There's bits of Tenet where the only word for it is absolute mayhem. You're just kind of like, you're like, what's going on? What am I watching? What's it's like, and you just kind of, it was so much so that I was thinking that this week I was like, should I go back and watch it again? And I was like, no, I need to do a lot of thinking first before I watch it again, because I need to figure out, like you said, okay, which bit of this am I going to watch? Which bit of this am I going to try and figure out if that bit makes sense? So I'm going to watch this. I'm going to see if that bit makes sense. And once I've got my head around that bit, I'm going to add that bit to it and see if that bit makes sense. And then it's like, so superfan Nina was asking me, was like, oh, should I watch Tenet? And I was like, yeah, but take a notepad with you and maybe a whiteboard. maybe a whiteboard so you can figure out so you can draw diagrams as the film is going on to figure out what's going on. And because I think ideally this is a film that you need to watch with, as I said, you need a version you can pause, you need a whiteboard, you need a notebook, and you need subtitles to hit some bits. I'm not sure whether you found that as well, Shaun, because there are some bits where I was like, what did he just say? I don't know, I missed what he said. But I feel that if I don't get what he just said, if I don't get what he just said, I'm not going to understand the next 10 minutes.
I didn't I was just like, I probably did miss some things like that. But I mean, there was so much, because there was so much going on, wasn't there? And but I mean, it was good. It was really well shot. Yeah. And as I say, the bit, and I've just got, and I can close my eyes and I can still see the two lines, of the soldiers.
Yeah.
Still see
the sort of big
bit where they were like, it's like
the big climatic Bond lair bad guy battle. Yeah.
It's like, wow. Okay, where do I put my eyes? Where should I look up in that corner? Should I look up it? Should I look straight ahead? It's just like, man, I need to see this again. So so I'm probably gonna check that out over the weekend. I think again, I'll probably give it another watch and sit back and try and not. Like you said, exactly like you say, Tos. I totally agree with you. It's a don't know, really.
Wow, Christopher Nolan. You see what we have agreement.
Again, yeah.
So
this is a good one.
So if right now you had to give Tenet a rating, if someone like held you down and said, "We're not leaving here, Shaun, until you give Tenet a rating," what would you say?
A rating. Wow. I mean, the rating I'd probably give it now would probably be a high 3.
Yeah.
But I think if I understood it a bit more and sort of again, it might actually go up a bit. But because there was so much going on. I mean, So I'm going to say a really, really solid high 3-star. I would give it.
Yeah. Because the more I think about it, the more the sense that I think I said it last week, it just keeps coming back to me. You have a feeling, and I put this up on our Twitter, on the Netflix Cinema Twitter, when I put up the link to the Tenet podcast. You just have this feeling like it makes sense, but you're too stupid to understand it.
Yeah,
it's a good feeling when you're in the cinema.
Yeah. It's like, I'm pretty sure it makes sense. Did you understand it? Oh yeah, totally got it. Yeah.
Okay.
What we need is we need Sharon to go and see it, because Sharon will know. She'll know straight away, and she'll be able to say, "Do you know what that's all about?" Because so it's good. So we're going to put pressure. Well, I'm going to put pressure on you, Sharon. You need to see this film and let us know.
I have to go see it. Okay.
I'll just ask you first of all, Sharon, what's your background in physics, especially temporal physics?
I might have read a science fiction book once.
All right. Okay. Cool. So that's the second go at Tenet. As we said, this film needs multiple viewings, so I'm pretty sure this is not going to be the last time Tenet shows up on this podcast. No. We're going to come back and go, okay, cool. We've reviewed the first 5 minutes. We understand the first 5 minutes. All right.
Well, I think that Chadwick Boseman is 9 kisses, not 6 kisses. That was my fault for turning my letter upside down. It's 9 kisses.
9 kisses. Cool. Awesome.
9 kisses. Okay.
Making a note. 9 kisses. Okay, so now that we have dealt for a second time, or we've attempted to deal for a second time with the conundrum that is Tenet, we will go back to Netflix and Friends one last time in this episode of the podcast. But Shaun, just one thing: did you understand what I meant when I said it's like a Rubik's cube? How there's some people who will watch 5 minutes and go, "Can't be bothered with this," and throw it away, and there's some people who will be like, "No, this is a mystery. I got to figure it out.
Yeah, I think some people would do that. They just look at it as like an action film and think, "Oh yeah, it's okay," but without thinking too much. I mean, there's some films like this. I mean, I don't mind the film. Some people think it's great. There's a film. Did you ever see Arrival?
It's called Arrival, I think. Yeah. Loved Arrival.
Yeah. One of my friends actually at church on Sunday, when I asked her what she thought of Tenet, she said it reminded her of Arrival in the fact that it's science fiction you've got to think a little bit about.
Yeah, but I think Arrival is linear. Arrival is linear compared to Tenet.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. No, I agree with you on that, Toes. Definitely.
I mean, I only needed to watch Arrival once. I got what was going on. I mean, Tenet is like, oh my God, what are you doing, Professor Nolan? All right, so now we go back to Netflix and Friends for one final time, and this is something that Shaun, you saw last week, and it's called The Blackout. And
yes.
This continues a run that you've had of going and watching films that don't come from the usual filmmaking powerhouses that we're used to. You've been watching a lot of Australian movies, you've been watching some French ones, some French-Canadian things, and this one is also another one that doesn't come from Hollywood or Britain or something like that. Where's this one from?
This one's from Russia. This is a Russian movie. This is a Russian science fiction movie.
Yep.
Obviously, a lot of money been poured into this one, I would think. A lot of money been poured into this one. And so it starts off, the film starts off really good. I don't know, have you ever seen the film Starship Troopers?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yes, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so basically, the opening scene is, you hear, let's say, there's something huge coming towards us. There's a group of huge, and all the soldiers get called out, and they just they're all pointing their guns, and then it goes to another part like 24 days before. So you don't really see what's coming out of the woods just at the moment. And then the sort of story builds up, and there's a little bit of a romance, and someone saying, so it's a dubbed film, and I have to say it's dubbed really, really well. So you get this little prologue, and then it ends up that the whole world loses all electricity. It's all like blacked out. No one really knows what's going on except this little part of Eastern Europe, a little part of Russia and Belarus, and like so. But everything else is totally blacked out. There's nothing. No communication, nothing. So, and they decide they're going to send out patrols. So they send out patrols to different areas. Yeah. And then they make these little outposts, and then it's a really, really loads of big action sequences. I mean, basically, this one group of soldiers, which are in one of these outposts, like just hordes of people come charging towards them. These are humans; they all come charging towards them, and then anyway, it turns out that there's these two aliens. So it's like a battle of two aliens, and there's going to be this alien invasion, which you find out later. And there's got like this mind control of all the people. They can control all the people, and they basically want to colonize Earth. So so that's one of those stories.
It's not a little bit like Alien versus Predator. It's like whoever wins, we lose kind of thing.
Not that sort of thing. They're like, because you've got a couple of brothers, so you've got a good brother and a bad brother. So basically, it's good and evil, light and dark. You know what I mean? And so is it humans versus aliens, or is it humans versus two lots of aliens?
No, it's humans versus humans.
Yeah.
But the humans are being controlled by one alien, and there's another alien that's trying to stop them. A bit like I don't know. There's those films like Sharon will know this one, Hell in the Pacific, and I think there's a later film with Louis Gossett Jr. called Enemy Mine.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that, where you've got the two, you've got the good and the bad. So you got, so it's a bit like that. And
so basically, yeah, it's these two aliens, but it's a huge film. There's some really good action sequences.
Yep.
And what can we say? You can imagine, because I like my shoot 'em ups, don't I? Really. And
yeah.
I would say it's very, very similar to Starship Troopers, but on Earth, with hordes of people to get shot. You know what I mean? Just hordes of people to get blown up and shot, and with guns, big guns, and modern guns, and all sorts of stuff. So,
is it like a film equivalent of one of those shoot 'em up video games like Halo or something?
I think this could possibly be a video game, or I mean, maybe it is a video game. I don't know, but yeah. Definitely, it's definitely in that mold. Definitely in that mold. Groups of soldiers. Some getting killed, some surviving. But yeah, it's all right for a Russian film, I think. I mean, I might have to check out some more Russian films. There is one I want to see called White Tiger, but. It was the dubbing, because it was dub film. I thought, because sometimes dubbing doesn't work, doesn't it? But it works really well in this. And
did you see this on Netflix or on something else?
No, this was Amazon. Amazon.
Okay, Amazon.
Yeah, this was Amazon. This one. Yeah. So it's what can we say? Yeah, the action sequence is quite good. I don't think there was anything really new in it as such. I suppose they were trying to be. And when it come to the sort of aliens, the brothers facing off, was a bit. I thought, that was so. Yeah, it was. It's my normal standard fare. It sort of started off. Oh yeah, this is going to be good. lots of action, lots of shooting, lots of video game sort of stuff. And I guess the final, with the individual, what I call the individual. It used to be like kung fu movies. You'd have someone fighting loads of people, and then there's like a big battle between just the two at the end.
Yeah.
So that type of thing. So you have the one off, and so decent action film. Not too hard to follow. There's very similar. You don't have to it's not like. It's not like Tenet, you know what I mean? It's not like, why did that?
Exactly. It's like the way you said it. You said when part of your review of a film is, it's not too hard to follow. You can just tell you can tell that you watched that film in the same week you watched Tenet.
Yeah. Good observation.
Where you're like, after watching Tenet, this was kind of like, okay, my head needs to cool down. It's overheating. Brain, cool down. That's a salve. Oh yeah. All right. So how many stars would you give it?
I'd just give it a 3. I'd give this one a 3 as well. So this could be a 3, but not a bad film for a Russian movie, and I think they must have thrown loads of money at it.
Yeah, it is one of those things that you find like there's a whole bunch of different places, like places that had films that for ages would have been derided. Like, how if a film had come out of China, if probably even a decade or two ago, people would have been looked down their nose at it. And I feel like now people are beginning to up their game, which is what I am also saying is happening in the Nigerian film industry in Nollywood, up in its game.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, it's one thing I was going to say, another thing I did watch, which was on iPlayer, and it was about the Australian cinema, and it was it was all about the Australian cinema, really, and it's on iPlayer. And I watched that. That was I forgot I watched that one, but yeah, it was just like a documentary about the Australian cinema. And what's his name? Who's the chap who did Break 'Em Around? I can't remember the new director. Beresford.
Bruce Beresford.
Yeah, we met him because he was at the quiz once, wasn't he?
Yeah. Bruce Beresford, world renowned. I think Oscar nominated,
Oscar winning. He was Oscar winning for Tender Mercies, wasn't he?
Oscar winning director who randomly was 1 week on the Isle of Wight in the Cineworld in a quiz, sitting right beside us, and it happened to be a week I was not there. So
I didn't recognise him, so it's only when someone else whispered to me, "That's Bruce Beresford," I was like, "Is it?"
Yeah,
he's gone.
He's just chilling. He's just sitting down chilling. doing a film quiz with us. And he didn't win.
It wasn't that good, I don't think.
He wasn't that good at the film quiz, and it was all about his films.
So yeah, but that's worth a watch about Australian cinema. You know, and it goes on. It says the Picnic at Hanging Rock really put that's when people started looking at Australian cinema. Yeah, because we watched The Nightingale, didn't we? That was Australian, wasn't it?
Yeah, Nightingale, awesome film, and it is. I very often, like, you know, I try and keep my nose out of Twitter things, because I think that there's just a lot. It's a word. Twitter is a terrible place to try and have a conversation. It really is. Yeah. It's just people shouting at each other. And there was somebody, there was somebody who wrote something about the film Event Horizon.
Yeah.
So, you know, in Event Horizon, you've got Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, and Sam Neill plays an Australian. And, you know, you're supposed to have, in this ship, you're supposed to have people from a whole bunch of different backgrounds in the, or different nationalities in this ship that's going. It's supposed to be like, so Lawrence Fishburne's from America, Sam Neill's supposed to be
from...
They've
got different flags on their shoulders, haven't they? They've got their... It's quite prominent that you can see where they're supposed to be representing, because it's all right there in eyeline all the time.
Yeah, and apparently, and this is something I didn't know, but somebody put a still of this up on Twitter and was talking about the fact that in the flag that, because the film is set in 2047, and the flag that Sam Neill has on his shoulder doesn't have the Union Jack on it. It's an Australian flag, but without the Union Jack on it. And instead of the Union Jack, in the place of the Union Jack, it has the flag of the Aboriginal nation on it. Because
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and Sam Neill apparently demanded that because he said that is what the Australian flag should look like in 2047. So he put that up there.
All the British characters have this circle of stars for the European Union.
Oh wow!
British characters have it.
Oh wow! They jumped the gun early on that, didn't they? They jumped the gun early on that. So and so obviously with all this kind of stuff, right? And then somebody started, and then people started complaining, saying, "Oh, why will they have the Aboriginal thing? Why shouldn't they have the Union Jack thing on it? Like, why should an Australian have an Aboriginal flag on it?" And I was like, "What the heck do you mean? What are you complaining?" And then somebody was saying, actually, to be honest with you, if the British hadn't taken over, it should be a Dutch flag because the Dutch would have taken over, and then they would have been. And I was like, what? And I actually had to comment on it. Like, I had to just go from the Netflix for Cinema account. I had to be like, how about a world in which no country feels the right to go over and take over another country and try and wipe out its population? I was like, how about that? But because this guy seemed to be saying, well, if it wasn't going to be the British, somebody else would have taken over. Like the people who were there before, it didn't matter about them. They didn't have any agency. They didn't have any sovereignty. Like, it would either have been British or Dutch, or it would have been some European country would have taken over. And I'm like, oh, I want to punch you in the face. And I feel like that sort of anger.
You feel like they don't know their own history very well, though, because when you look at our own history as the British Isles, it's like, okay, we're invaded by the Vikings, by the Normans, by the Romans, by the Saxons, by the Angles, by the Jutes, we were invaded every other decade for 1,000 years. It's like, you're talking about your own history. You can think back, people go about the Cornish, say, yeah, we have our own flag because we weren't invaded by the Romans. You think, that's 1,000 years ago. I sometimes think you don't know your own history, chum.
Yeah, and it's something that has been, and I'm sorry that all of a sudden we seem to have gotten a bit, I don't know if it's political or philosophical. I don't know what this is. But it's something that has been going, well, the whole thing of like those who don't know their own history are bound to repeat it. And I think, like what you're talking about there, like if people don't know their own history, and so if you don't know the history that you've been invaded, you just go invade someone else because you don't think of how bad it was to be invaded. So the one of the good things, this is something that came to me, like for instance, one of the good things that's coming about all the Black Lives Matter stuff that's going on at the moment for me is all these historical stories that are coming out, because it's forcing a whole bunch of places to look at their history. There's a really good article I'm reading on BBC about Oregon in the United States, and how this whole Black Lives Matter thing has made people in Oregon start wrestling with the racist past of Oregon, and that's the thing that I love about it, that it's coming out. But anyway, all this to say that I'm going back to Australian movies, going back to The Nightingale, saying that watching The Nightingale made me go, you know what? I'm going to say something about this, because The Nightingale is a film that it still rankles with me. I mean, it's a brilliant film for that. It has not left me since I watched it about 3 weeks ago. So on that note, until next week when we will talk about when we might talk about cheerier things like High Score, I'll be talking about High Score, a non-offensive documentary series about the history of video games. Until then, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye now. Let's hope there's something out, eh?
Let's hope there's something in cinemas. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I've looked and I think, nah.
Nah.
Or is that there's nothing new, or there's nothing that you would? Is that that there's nothing new whatsoever, or is it that there's nothing new that you would watch?
There's nothing new that I would watch.
Okay.
Well, this week it's a lot of the live act. There's like Andre Rea. Oh, let's look at David Attenborough, and you just think, why would I want to watch Andre Rea at the cinema? You know.
That's it. I mean,
oh wow! Oh wow! This does not look good. The only things that we have at the cinema close to me is, for the next week, is TENET, The New Mutants, Unhinged, and Onward. You're not going to save cinema by doing that. Are you serious about staying in business? I mean, honestly.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.